Next up is Angela Siefer. We heard from her earlier today talking about access and inclusion, so this is going to be a fun conversation. So let me ask this. So it strikes me that this whole issue of technology really ought to be thought of as infrastructure in the same way roads and power and water is infrastructure. And in our history, we've come up with all kinds of models, government has, to try to get those financed and built, right? The national highway system or the farm-to-market road system was stuff that government just invested in. The power, rural electrification was done through a different model with rural electric co-ops. What are some of the kind of innovative models that government can incentivize more widespread access of broadband?
So as with any infrastructure, those companies that have a vested financial interest want to influence the policies. So the more innovative policies need to either make friends with the industry or move the industry aside, right? And that's pretty much what's happened. And there are smaller cities, tends not to happen in the big cities, smaller cities and towns that have blazing fast speeds of broadband, right? And that is incredible.
How did that happen?
They moved folks aside, right, in order to
Say more.
So we need internet service providers. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me that I hate internet service providers. We need them. But we also don't want them to get in the way if we need more speeds or we need particular kinds of technology or we need it to be more affordable. Whatever it is that we need, if those internet service providers are not working with us, then we need to find ways to do it ourselves. And that's what has happened in quite a few towns around the US. There are also some pretty frustrating stories of state legislatures deciding that that shouldn't happen and that those companies, the current industry, should be given preference because we wouldn't want to hurt them. Like, that's for real. That really happens all over the country. It's just really incredible. I think it's also important, though, for us to make sure that as we think about the awesomeness of some of those gigabit networks or super fast networks, is that some of them have figured out the affordability piece of it and the digital literacy piece of it, and some of them haven't. Some of them are still figuring it out. NDIA, one of the things we came out with recently, we do it every year, and we came out with our worst connected cities list. And this, I know, it makes us very popular. But what we mean by it is, what is the broadband adoption? How many residents actually have internet in their homes? How many have subscribed? So if you don't have high subscription rates, then we put you at the top of the list, right? And Chattanooga ended up number 14, which is kind of close to the top. And you wouldn't believe how many emails I got, like, what's going on? Why is Chattanooga even on your list? Well, it's because, one, Chattanooga serves an area way beyond the city limits, and we were only looking at the city limits. There are a lot of poor folks living in the city, and they're not subscribing. And the data was from 2016. So, actually, big kudos to Chattanooga. They are doing a lot right now. They do have a low-cost offer. They are figuring out digital literacy. They're running a mesh network into the housing authority, right? Like, these are all great solutions. But they started that stuff recently, and the data's from 2016.
And so tell me a little bit about best practices for cities who are making a decision to run their own or buy their own network and be an ISP themselves.
So I am not an expert on that topic, but there are lots of folks who are. muninetworks.org, nextcenturycities.org. These are websites you can go to now that have awesome resources that show how it is that cities can negotiate, can have more of a stance, like the whole issue of 5G, where are the towers, where are those little cell boxes going, who has control over where those go. There is legislature in some cities now. There's some that's being developed in other cities. And it's that balance of, yes, we want the infrastructure, but we also want to make sure it goes everywhere, because digital redlining is real. Right? There are areas of your community that do not have as fast of internet or as affordable of internet, or they don't have competition. And why? Because internet service in the US is a for-profit venture. And it's pretty much unregulated.
So one of the things, obviously, we've been talking about here a lot is how citizens and people connect to government via the internet now and in digital context. Talk a little bit about how we need to make sure we're not leaving people behind, because it strikes me as we're, moving VA, benefits online to make it easier for veterans, and we're moving health records online, and we're moving other registering your car online, that you really are cutting out folks who aren't online. So talk a little bit about how government can make sure to get that right.
Yeah, and I am personally conflicted, right? Because I love all the online stuff, right? I use it all myself. I get all excited about it. If it's saving me a trip to the DMV, sweet. But if it's only available online, then we have a problem. And when you switch to only online, that's where there's a lot of cost savings, right? Because then you don't have people on the phone, you don't have somebody sitting in the office. You all know this. You all have probably had these conversations a zillion times about how to save money by putting things online. But there are people who don't have access for a variety of reasons, right? They don't have it in their home, but sometimes their son or daughter comes over and they're able to use their son or daughter's device. They have a mobile phone, but the mobile phone has a data plan, and so they can only do certain things since it's the only device they have. Or they have another device, but they're not sure how to use the mobile data plan on the device, right? There's all kinds of barriers that keep folks from being able to get on the internet. And so some of those situations are incredibly frustrating, and I think the conversation we need to be having in our cities and at our state level, at the federal level, is if we're going to put something online, what connected to that is helping the particular population that will use that service to be able to access it. And telling folks to go to the library is not a real solution. Do you know how upset librarians get? They're like, another one. Now they put the GED online. Oh, here's the newest one. I'm told that states that are rolling back Medicaid, that in order to get some of your benefits back, you have to do it online. Oh my God. What if you don't have the internet?
Yeah, so I would suggest, I don't know if this is what y'all do, but some studies that show like the number of people that are impacted by this would be great. I don't know whose job it is to do that, but in terms of informing government about the impact of these decisions,
The government has the numbers.
Well, just
The government may not
public
look
ought to
at the
have
numbers. So they do. Like the census, we don't have good numbers. This is part of the problem. We have shaky numbers, right? One, a lot of the numbers come directly from the providers. For example, if they serve a census block with one household, one address, well, that whole census block has coverage. That is real. That is really what our data looks like. And in a rural area, that is highly problematic.
It's true. Well, I know we need to wrap up here. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.